Okay, so we're live. Welcome back to the Magic Minds podcast. I'm Matt Burke. You're watching and listening to the Liberty's #1 podcast. Yup, the Liberties, yup, the Flats. I'm absolutely buzzing to have this man on the show. Guys, introduce Mick Finnegan. Mick, what is the crack?
Wow, the crack's 90.
Yeah? How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Got lashed out in the rain on the way over here, and yeah, it was just mad. Like, you know, the weather's just like, I think Ireland's the only. I think Ireland's the only place in the world where you can experience 4 seasons in one day. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous.
Sometimes I don't know whether to go out with Factor 150 or a raincoat or my shades or wellies.
Joys of being ginger, man.
We're not ginger. What did you say?
Moroccan sunset.
Moroccan sunset. I like that, Andy.
Well, Moroccan sunset in the summer, and the winter we're burnt cinnamon.
Yeah. The three amigos were like sitting in the studio. Me, you, and Andy. Andy's not really a ginger. He's a closet.
Oh, is he?
He's a closet ginger. Me and you are proud.
Yeah.
We should have a pride day.
Proper Garfields.
Guys, I've asked Mick to come on the show because it's another episode in our series of Yup the Flats. Mick has an inspirational stories. We're all about inspiration here. Mick has gone through sexual abuse, suicide ideations, his own mental health struggles, and he's gone on to get himself a place in Trinity College. Am I right? Yeah.
I got accepted at Trinity nearly 2 years ago now. Did the Trinity Access course initially because I was trying to get into social work or mental health nursing for years, and I couldn't. I'd no leaving cert. I'd no junior cert, and I was working in the UK, so I didn't have any qualifications to get onto a course. And then someone told me about Lynn Rowan and her story and how she went on the Access course and the stuff that she's achieved.
Brilliant.
And that was amazing. And I was like, oh jeez, I don't think they'll give me a place in that course. And I went there and did the interview, and I was working for the NHS at the time as a mental health peer support worker. So I was using my own lived experience of mental health difficulties and mental illness and sharing those experiences with patients in inpatient units,
right,
in a hope to kind of get them to kind of engage with the services and the treatment plans that are available to them.
Yeah.
And saying to them, like, look, if you engage with the service, you can achieve stability. You can go on and have a full-time job, a girlfriend, a wife, a boyfriend, a house, a flat, a car, whatever you want, you can achieve it. But you need to do this first. And I was just like speaking from experience, because I was an absolute lunatic when I was living in London. I was, I was absconding from mental health hospitals. I was like, a big fat ginger Richard Kimball, you know what I mean? Escaping from psychiatric units in London and getting brought back by the Metropolitan Police. And
really like a Garfield cartoon.
Yeah, literally, yeah. Except more Vaseline, that show.
Well, we won't talk about that bit. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But come here. Let's paint the picture. Take us back. Give us an insight to what life was like growing up. You grew up in the flats in Treesits.
Yeah, well, I grew up in the North Avenue. I went to school in St. Treesits there, and I loved it. Loved growing up in the flats. I loved the kind of there was like an identity. When you grew up there, you're from the north, from the gardens. Do you know what I mean? And I loved. My granddad lived there as well. Sadly, he passed away a few years ago. Paul O'Shea, and I remember going to pubs with him, like the Stork and Lowe's on Cork Street.
Yeah.
And like it was him and Christy McCann. They just do a loop. They'd go in and they'd be having drinks, and I'd be sitting there with them like that, hoping I get like the end of a pint or a chocolate bar or a glass of red lemonade, that type of thing. And it was great. And then my ma got a transfer. I ended up in Ballyfermot for a little bit, and it didn't really, it was different because it was a house, you know what I mean? And I was so used to kind of being surrounded by everyone and, hanging out with my mates and all that type of thing. I went to school in Ballyar. I went to school all over, actually. I went to a few schools in Crumlin, which I had to leave due to creative differences. And then
I love it.
And then ended up in Ballyar, in the Johns College. And it was, great school. Like the Johns College, was a fantastic school. Like the staff, the teachers, even the current principal there, Miss Leonard, she's still there now. And I remember her. I think when it was her first day. Newly qualified teacher over 25 years ago. Coming in and teaching. I think she taught history, and I remember doing history, and she was like, "You'd be well able for honours history," and I'd be, "Oh no, I'm not smart enough for that." And it was probably the first person that kind of taught me about or encouraged me to be aspirational. Now, it might not be a big deal to a lot of people, but to do ordinary level and then go on and do honours level, it's big enough. It's a bit of a jump, like, I think.
It's lovely to hear that nugget has sat with you for all these years. That nice words, those kind affirmations, has still stuck in your mind. It's brilliant, isn't it?
Oh, it's lovely. Like, I think one of the big things is, I shared with some students in Clogher Road Community College, just the 6 years graduation last week, and I was invited up to do their end of the keynote speech or talk for the 6 years who are going on to college or further education or apprenticeships or whatever. And I reminded the kids to focus more on the positive side of things than the negative. And I shared an example of me growing up in a school and going to school in Crumlin, name nameless. But the guidance counsellor said to me, the nearest I'd get, she says, "What do you want to do?" I was, "I'd love to go to Trinity College. I'd love to be a doctor or a guard or, I was like proper, like, something different. I want to do something." And she goes, "The nearest you'll get to Trinity College is Mountjoy, like the rest of your family." And I was just floored by that comment.
Jesus Christ.
The rejection,
Of course.
like there's almost like a real kind of level of almost animosity directed towards you, and you're only a child.
Violence.
Well, it wasn't violence. It was just an unkind comment to someone who was looking for support, advice, and guidance. And that's not like, back then that wasn't uncommon,
No,
like,
I'd have heard that myself. I was told the same thing.
We would have got lashed out of it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I remember there was a school that I went to in Crumlin, and if you didn't have your rosary beads, you got to dig off the wall, and you got sent home to get them.
That's very Jesus-like, isn't it?
Oh, proper. I'm telling you. Turn the other cheek.
Yeah, like that's absolutely bonkers. So you had your stint in Dublin. You talked about mental health. When did you notice that you had difficulties around mental health?
I guess it was probably, again, just to bring it back to kind of still being in Dublin. I was in the John's Ambulance as a child, and I wanted to kind of, have a way in to kind of helping people, and I was really impressed with the uniforms and the ambulances and the skills that they were learning. And I remember like going down, because my granddad was the caretaker of the community centre.
Okay.
He'd lock it up at the end of the night and open it up at the start of the day. I think it was on some sort of CE scheme when he was like retired or something. I don't know, I forget the details of it, but he was there for ages. And I joined the John's Ambulance, but then there was a fella that ran it. He was grooming me and several others. And, it came to a head where he, consistently sexually abused me and then ultimately raped me as a child. And it was after that then that I started to kind of really become angry and become, I wouldn't say violent, but I would reject any help or any signs of kindness or compassion directed in my, way. I'd be like, nah, fuck off.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
How old were you?
I was like, it started when I was about 12, went on like for a number of years, several years.
Wow.
And, when you're young and you're impressionable and you admire someone and this someone is mentoring you, you do kind of go to yourself, well, hang on a second, Eventually you kind of have the knowledge to kind of go, this is wrong.
Right.
And you're terrified to open your mouth because you're worried no one will believe you. And I remember going to the cops when I was a kid.
Did you?
Yeah, me and Darren O'Brien. Me and Darren O'Brien used to kill each other in the Texel garage on the Crumlin Road. We used to wash the cars for JJ Kieran and Sons. He used to give us, we were like forecourt attendants. Myself and Darren gave us fancy job titles. We were in fuel injection technicians. We putting petrol in the cars, washing cars for hours, and changing topping up the oil and stuff like that. And I remember Darren O'Brien coming with me one day. He's still one of my best mates. He's living in London now with his own family and manages a pub in West London there. And I remember going with him trying to make this, and we got fucking ran out of the station.
Did he experience the same?
No.
He just came
didn't.
with
No,
you?
he was there as support, like,
Right.
he's me mate. And then I remember going back down again, and then eventually the cops kind of took it seriously, and that they investigated it.
When you said went back, how many times did you need to go
a
back?
couple of times, twice, yeah.
And what did they say to you? Like, what was the response on the first one? And
there was no referral. Like, it's different now, where there's kind of
yeah.
like joined up multidisciplinary team approaches.
Yeah.
You know, but again, it was the mid to late 90s. You know,
Right.
it was the late 90s. You know, when I was when I made that complaint again, and I remember kind of saying to them, like, "Here, what's the crack?" Like, and they're like, "Don't worry, we'll look into it." Blah blah blah, and you know, I felt sorry for the guy that was taking. You know, hindsight's a wonderful thing. I felt sorry for the guy taking the statement, because he was visibly uncomfortable. You know, kind of from you know. Me now, we're lucky that there are dedicated units within the Garda Síochána called I think they're called Divisional Service Protective Units, and they're skilled, you know, investigative guards. But they also have a certain level of emotional intelligence to enable them to take the statements sensitively, and it's more professional now, you know. But it was difficult, you know, kind of going through that process, and then, you know, being told, well, no, he's not going to get a prosecution because it happened so long ago, and he did a no comment interview, he didn't admit it, and all that stuff. And that really got to me, and I was so angry. And at this stage, like, I was homeless in Dublin, I was on the streets, you know. There was a breakdown in the family home, you know. I was sleeping rough. I was, you know, ringing the homeless free phone number, 1-800-724-724. I still remember it.
Wow.
Being on hold, going, you know, and the music is like, and then my head, I'm like, that goes fucking again. I smash this phone off the phone box, because you're there on hold for ages, and then you get through and go, can you make the night bus on Amen Street? And you're like, no, I'm up on the keys. Well, you have to get down there, and it's lashing out, and you'd go down.
Yeah.
There were times where you'd only get a sleeping bag. There'd be times where you'd be put in like Santa Maria Hostel on Charlemagne Street, which thankfully I walked by the other day and it's gone.
Yeah.
And it was like the worst place to stay in Dublin. There was like I'd say it was like 10 of us in a room. 10, 15, depending like the room you were in. And they're just all on like bunk beds. And like, I remember, like, you know, you had to tie your shoelaces to the metal bar on your bed to stop anyone from nicking
Robbing
your
runners.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Nicking your runners, yeah, because like, it was just or your sleeping bag or anything, you know. It was a very it was a tough, very tough. And obviously kind of going through that process and experiencing those things and navigating homeless services, you end up kind of being quite resentful. You end up being quite distant, and you don't want to engage in anything.
Yeah.
You don't want any services, you don't want any help, because you went and looked for help, and the people that were supposed to help you let you down.
Yeah.
So you end up kind of rejecting everything, you know.
Yeah, what's two things are really jumping out at me here is, one is your bravery as a young man to go and report that not once but twice, and then the fact now that you're talking about and you use humour. I just love that you're able to show that strength. Is amazing.
But that took a long time to get there.
Oh,
you know,
I totally
like
understand
we're talking like years of therapy, years of being detained against my will in a psychiatric hospital, you know, like going in and out of hospitals, engaging with community mental health teams to kind of, you know, you know, going missing, what effectively is like going on the run, you know, because you're there because you're unwell and you're detained, you know, under the law in England. And I'm like, I'm not staying there. Take your own fucking. I was like proper like.
You were rage against the machine.
Stop! I didn't want to know. I didn't want to engage in the services or anything, and it was a bit surreal, you know. And then eventually, you know, I met a brilliant doctor and an amazing psychiatric nurse, and they just really kind of focused on kind of, you know. Instead of asking me questions that I didn't really want to talk about, they asked me, what happened? And they gave me a space to be able to talk to them, you know.
Okay, just so I can get my head around it. They didn't ask specific questions about the event. They just asked you what happened, allowing you to just whatever way you want to open this package up.
My narrative, it's my story.
Okay.
It's my
It wasn't orchestrated.
Exactly.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah,
Getcha.
you know. So what they were doing is they were more interested in understanding what happened to me as opposed to. So tell me about your mother.
Okay, yeah.
And how did that make you feel? Key learning points for next time, and you go fuck yourself.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like you'd be very much kind of like.
Okay.
You'd be very much kind of, you know.
Yeah, and where did that happen? Was that in England?
I was in England, yeah. Because I got.
How did you get there in the first place?
Well, I got offered a job in London working with the homeless.
Right.
So I was working with the homeless in Dublin when I got off the streets, and then I went to London thinking, sure, I'll run away with me problems, and that'd be grand. And that came to a head when I got into a 4-hour standoff with the Metropolitan Police in London. I shut down the transport network.
How'd you do that?
Climbed the bridge, threatened to jump off. I was completely, you know, psychotic. You know, I was completely, you know, manic. I was undiagnosed. I wasn't engaging. I didn't even know I had a mental health issue at this stage. And like there was a negotiator there.
I'm just grand. I'm just a bit angry.
And the negotiator's there. What do you want? And I'm like, I want to speak to Bertie Ahern and Tony Blair. And he goes, I'll look into that for you. Me thinking deadly. I'm gonna speak to Bertie. He'll sort her out. Do you know what I mean?
He was busy building the Bertie ball.
But like my mind was so mad that I thought that this was like, you know, this is what's gonna happen. You know, I'm gonna go and talk to Bertie, and then he'll chat to Tony Blair, and then the Metropolitan Police will drive him to the airport, be back in Dublin, and be grand. And like I was mad. Like none of this was happening. You know, and then the guy that got me off the streets in Dublin.
Were you on drugs at the time?
No.
Out there?
No, never touched
Were
the
you
stuff.
a gargler?
No, not really, no. I like a pint, but like I wouldn't be there like, you know, 12 pints a day.
Like this wasn't drink or drug fuel, this was just pure mental breakdown.
Complete mental breakdown, yeah. And it was due to the trauma that I experienced as a child and not addressing that trauma because it came to a head.
Yeah.
Because I was getting consistent flashbacks, PTSD flashbacks, nightmares. You know, I wasn't sleeping and it just came to a head.
Wow.
And the cops were like, we've got someone here to speak to you. And I was like, Bertie? But that was
Piers Morgan.
Yeah.
You're like, fuck him.
Yeah. Prick. No, but like, I was there chatting away and it was more to do with kind of, you know, it was the guy that got me off the streets in Dublin, Howard Russell. He was working in London, managing homeless services for the Salvation Army. And the Met Police got him up onto the bridge and he was there chatting away to me and he was just like, Mickey, don't do this. You know, I love you. And I swear to God, I was like, tears. Proper, like, just bawling my eyes out in front of this fella. And just going, no way. No way. Like, you know, it's like, please, like, I love you and I'll miss you. And, you know, you're part of my family and all this stuff. And I was just like, fucking hell, like, this is...
I've never experienced this shit before.
Not really, you know.
Like, no disrespect to your family or my family, but even Andy, we didn't grow up in that area because I grew up in the 90s like you did, and it was a harsh environment.
I was born in 83, you know, and, you know, you getting like a little dig off your down the shoulder was like a kind of a, you're alright, like, you know what I mean? It's like, that was kind of like a turn, like almost like an affectionate type thing.
Yeah, you know, I grew up the same, sexual abuse, violence.
Yeah, there was no kind of... I think they lacked the life skills that me and you now take for granted.
Oh, 100%.
You know, they don't have that emotional intelligence to go, I love you. They don't have that emotional intelligence to say, I'm sorry. They don't have the emotional intelligence. And that's, you know, just the way it is.
Same as my mum, Mick. You know, only this year we spoke about this. She goes, Ma, I was never told I was loved. And I says, Ma, you weren't given a book how to mind me, especially, or rare me, especially a ginger lunatic. I said, you know what I mean, your hands were tied. I says, and she didn't get the life skills, so I don't blame you, you know. Yeah. She knows now, and people know a little bit better now, don't they?
I think they do now, and I think that comes with kind of, you know, how society as a whole has evolved. How there's more of an emphasis put on education, where there's a real kind of, you know, people are becoming more aspirational, you know, and it's great to see.
And more socially aware, more socially intelligent, more emotionally intelligent.
And more socially inclusive. You know, Ireland has evolved so much, you know, it's great to walk down the street and see, you know, people from Brazil and Africa and, you know, people that make the area probably a better place, because it's the culture that kind of they bring that kind of really diversifies communities to enable it to be more accepting of each other, and accepting of ourselves.
Yeah, brilliant. Can we just go back then to just the guy in the bridge? If I want to get back to that piece.
Yeah, like so he was there and like he hugged me, and then he goes, "Look, come on, we get off the bridge." And I was like, "Okay," and I was bawling my eyes. I was like, I kind of revered being like 14 again, you know, or 12 again, or whatever. Fuck. And then I get downstairs, and like, bear in mind, there's like hundreds of police. You know, there's a helicopter over out. You know, the Docklands like railway's been shut down for 4 hours, so it's like the financial hub, you know, for London. Later found out that it cost for the 4 hours I was up there, they lost £24,000. And they tried to take me to court to get it back.
Give them both the vouchers.
Yeah, I was like, I did take both the vouchers. But like they were like, I was just still completely mad. And then I remember like getting downstairs off the train and off the bridge, and then down onto the track, and then down around to the stairs. And then as I come down, there's about 7 or 8 big Metropolitan Police coppers, and they just slam me to the ground. Proper, like, full on slam me to the ground, and Jesus. Like handcuffed me, fucked me in the back of a prison van, and it was they took me to a psychiatric hospital in West London, and spent the few days in there on an assessment in a seclusion suite, which is literally, there's a hole in the ground for you to go do your business. There's a tiny little sink, no taps, it's all sensors and all that stuff. There's a big sponge mattress. It's almost like getting, you know, doing a night in the Bridewell. Do you know what I mean?
I've done a couple.
Like, it's almost like that.
Yeah. Sounds a bit more plush.
But yeah, and you're just like, fuck, this is like, you know. And then I'd be like not taking any meds, and then they'd be coming in and pinning me to the ground, injecting me, you know, intramuscularly with like I don't know, probably haloperidol or something like that to calm me down, because I was getting really worked up because I was detained against me will.
Yeah, sectioned.
Yeah, it was, yeah, like proper, like, and then like I'd be. Yeah, just didn't want to engage, didn't want to know. Didn't get on with the psychiatrist, didn't get on with the nurses. I remember, like, eventually the first walk I went outside, you know, for a walk, and the nurse was, he was like, Mick, now we're going to get your hair cut, you're not going to do a runner. And I'm like, no. Not even thinking about it. I was like, as soon as I get a good 5 feet away from that fat fella, I'm legging it. Right? Because I thought I could have him. So anyway, I'm walking, and then he's on the phone chatting away, and he's like, "What's for dinner, darling?" All this shit. And I'm like, fuck, this is it, deadly. Gone. Running down the road, right, thinking I'm deadly. But bearing in mind, I haven't left that hospital for about a week and a half. No fitness in me, nothing, you know, just been sitting on a bed.
And not eating.
Not eating properly around, you know. And all I hear behind me is like, it's like a chase scene from the Jurassic Park. Came like, poof, poof, poof. And I'm like, oh, he won't catch me. Bang, bang. And next of all, I just feel this unmerciful boot to the leg. And he clips the leg. And I go flying head first on the ground. Picks me up. And I'm like, what the fuck you doing that for? What you doing that? You're a fucking... And he goes, I didn't know that, and you tripped.
It's like something out of a film.
Genuinely, you tripped. And I'm like, no, you bleeding did that. You did that. I said, well, you can go back and say that. And then what'll happen is you'll lose your time out again. Or next time I take you out, you won't do that again. And I was like, all right, fair enough.
Deal.
Went back to the face all covered in like scrapes and blood and
stones,
black eyes, stones, and you know, and yeah, it was just bleeding mad, you know. And then I was in and out of hospital then for years, you know, just because I still refused to take my medication, still refused to talk about how I felt, still refused to let anybody in, to trust anybody.
Of course.
And then I began to become suicidal again.
Okay.
And my friends were kind of, like getting the police to come after me, and I'd be like, going missing and all that jazz, and then eventually there was during the middle of a suicide attempt, I won't go into the details because it's quite graphic, but I was there, and I didn't want to die. And I'll be honest, if it wasn't for the bloke out walking his dog, I would have died.
Okay.
I woke up in Charing Cross Hospital. I damaged the arteries to my neck. I was under some cardiovascular guide in the hospital for weeks. And that was like a penny drop moment where I decided that I was going to try and live and listen to the professionals. And yeah, it worked, it kind of, going to, and I hated kind of talking about what happened. I hated telling someone that I was raped.
Yeah.
I hated talking about, the breakdown in the family home, sleeping rough in Dublin, eating out of a bin.
Shame.
Waking up on Graham Street and some posh fella pissing on you,
Yeah.
thinking it's hilarious.
The shame of it.
Shame, absolute shame,
Yeah.
and the rejection of the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Pure rejection, and the hurt of everything. And now I wear it as a badge of honor. Now I wear it like armor. What happened to me doesn't define me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your background explains your behaviour, doesn't excuse it. So what I do now is, like, I'm not afraid to kind of open up and talk about how I feel, because at the end of the day, I'm not the one that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because for me, I've dealt with those situations. I've resolved them to the best of my ability, and I'm living a pretty happy life. Like I did graduated from the All Access course there last year, and I was telling my mates, 20 years ago, I was sleeping rough opposite Trinity College, and today I just graduated from it. In my first year doing the Access course, and I think if anything, that's a testament to not me, but the college for being inclusive, but also the mental health professionals in London that enabled me to find my stability again. And there's a big kind of stigma attached to medication and talking therapies and all that stuff. And look, I take meds and I talk about how I feel, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, I love the part where you said there, when you went through that episode of suicide, that you realised that you didn't want to die.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the light switch, because I've had suicide ideations. I want to take my own life, and it was a realisation when my mate said to me, "You don't want to die, you just want the pain to stop." And I didn't, but there was times where I just didn't want to live anymore. But then I seen the light, and I said, I actually do want to live. And it's that point, isn't it, where you see the hope?
Look, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Lovely.
Simple as that. I thought for a long time I wouldn't have stability. I wouldn't have a roof over my head. I wouldn't be able to have, a relationship with a woman because of what happened to me.
You just can't see beyond the darkness.
No,
you just can't see out of the forest.
But it comes down to accepting what happened. Talking about how you feel. Genuinely talking about how you feel. And looking after your mental health. So, like, the same way, now I know people are looking at me now and they think, geez, he isn't exactly a physical specimen. But, that's COVID way. But normally...
COVID cushion.
COVID padding.
COVID cushion.
But, it's like, what I would say to people is, like, the same way we look after our physical health, it's the same way we should be looking after our mental health. Being proactive, being, talking about how you feel, keeping in touch with loved ones, drinking responsibly, eating healthily, doing something you're good at and accepting who you are.
Yeah.
Those little things.
Acceptance is a huge piece, Mick, right? It's a huge piece, and even when I wake up in the morning and I feel like a bag of shite, I find it difficult to accept that, right? And that's hard because you want everything to be bed knobs and broomsticks. But before you even get to that place, it's even looking into that fucking dark cave. That is one of the hardest things to do. Like you and I have done. We've opened that Pandora box. For years I've drank and took drugs and I've ran away from my problems. But looking in there, and then when because you and I would have went thinking that, you know, oh, I'm not fucking going there, and I don't even look, and then when you open again, it's raw as fuck. So even acknowledging the hurt and the pain and the trauma that happened, and then we start to, okay.
Completely, 100%. And it's by acknowledging it and dealing with it and talking about it and getting professional help. Is in my opinion, for me, that's what worked for me. And, you know, that's not to say that, you know, you do all that stuff and it's like magic light switch moment. It's like zippity doo da, zippity dee. My old boy's a wonder. No, it's not. No. You're gonna have your bad days.
Oh, fucking hell.
But the reality is now you've got the life skills. You've got tools,
and you know what you're dealing with.
Absolutely, but you've got tools that enable you to deal with, to make and to respond to things more effectively. Whereas before, old behaviours would be, I'm gonna go up and knock. I'm gonna go up to him. I'm gonna knock on his door. I'm gonna fucking knock his head in. You know,
you're abusing.
Yeah, I was like,
yeah, me too.
I remember I'm gonna go up and knock him out. I remember like being like what, homeless, going up his gaff, trying to kick in the door. They coming out and the cops coming up tackling me to the ground, and they were all like bleeding armed and everything. You swear it was like me going in there like I was doing a hit. You know what I mean? And then the cops like, what happened? I'm in tears. And I was like, he. And he goes, don't worry, come on, get him back to the. And literally went back to the, you know, and they let me go. They felt so sorry for me. They just let me go. And but they did say, like, if you're near this gaff again, we're gonna do you. Like,
yeah. You
know, but that was what, over 20 odd years ago.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? You know, that's the almost the, what's the word I'm looking trying to find? That's a moment where you kind of go, like, now if I have a bad day, if I'm feeling down, if I'm feeling depressed, like I had a bad day the other day. I talked about it. You know, I picked up the phone and spoke to me. And I said, this is how I'm feeling. Let's go for a coffee. Went for a walk down by the beach there. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Much better after it.
Yeah, like, I mean,
it puts things into perspective.
And you can put label on, like you and I would have grew up in the same area. We wouldn't have known how to express our feelings, our emotions, because we said in the flats, I said it to our mates, you'd be absolutely caned for.
Oh, you'd be slagged. Everyone would be giving you a stick.
Not only did we have a trauma, but then we had the skills of where we grew up that tells you that you don't talk about weakness, you don't talk about vulnerability, you don't talk about being a lesser man. So we not only were raped or abused, and then we can't even talk about it because we're ashamed, because our community has told us. No, I'm not slagging off the community. It's just the way we grew up in the area. That's not a good thing to talk about. It's like, fuck, I'm doing a crime already.
But you know what we have in the inner city?
Which?
Everyone has it. Resilience.
Oh, balls
Bags
like
of it.
Balls like a Bengal tiger.
Yeah, like resilience. Like,
yeah.
And I mean, like, in a way where, like, if you had nothing, you would just go without. You know, people would just like, sure, look, it's grand.
Oh,
you know, bags and bags of resilience. You know, like, full of it.
And yeah, no, I've had my insecurities growing up about stuff that's happened to me. But when I went anywhere, like into my job and all that, I had the confidence from the liberty. I'm from the liberties. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I can say, like, we had tough times growing up, but also gave us great resilience, a great set of skills. Absolutely,
I think, and again, like growing up in the flats or growing up in the area, the local area, you know, where we are now, you know, confidence. We were all none of us were afraid to open our mouths. Do you know what I mean? Every one of us.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Very on the ball, very quick. You know, like I remember like being like a kid. Some guard that came up to me one day goes, I'm directing you in a section, whatever, to vacate there. And I was like, I'm directing you to fuck off. I'd get a dig for me troubles. But everyone thought it was hilarious. Like even the cops would be laughing at you. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I just think it's just a thing where we're from. I do think, you know, we are very gifted communicators. We're very resilient. And I think
I'm a modest.
We're not modest now. We're very no, we're not. We're not. Everyone thinks Conor McGregor created this kind of persona. I'm like, he's just everyone I know.
And we're sarcastic as fuck.
Completely. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a great area, but as we say, I think you made a fantastic point, Mick. You know, you open the bag you look in the cave, you see the darkness, you go to the therapy, you take the tablets, blah, blah. It doesn't cure it. You know, this takes work. It's like working out in a gym. It's like mastering your golfing skills, football skills. You got to be still tipping away with your tools and your practices every day, don't you?
Absolutely. Like, you know, you see lads in the gym and they'll talk about how much they lift. And they go, how much do you bench today? And, like, you get like, oh, I did 120, yeah. And, like, but it's the same with your mental health. You know, you'll be able to lift that amount. You'll be able to deal with more when you work on more. You know, it's literally just focusing on you. Like, I did a thing called RAP a couple of years ago. Wellness Recovery Action Plan. And I thought it was just a revelation. I loved it. You know, it was brilliant because I was there kind of like, I don't know, it was just gave me simple steps.
Of course.
Simple steps to take.
Simplicity is the highest form of sophistication.
Oh, stop. It was brilliant, you know. Like,
Ken Doyle, Bagatelle.
Thanks, Ken. Yes.
He told me that one. That's me pal, Ken. You up the Bagatelle. Simplicity is the highest form of sophistication. You know, and that's how we use it. Keep it simple. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Yeah. Don't make it bleeding complicated and highfalutin.
And that's what RAP was about, you know, early warning signs, triggers, what's in your wellness toolbox. Yeah. So when you feel like this, what can you do? Where can you go? Yeah. What can you do that's nice for you to make you feel, instead of being in your cave under your blankets, you know, letting anxiety and depression and, you know, the worry just consume you. You know, there has to be, I always find you need to be almost proactive, but there's an element of personal responsibility in enabling you to maintain your stability and recovery in mental health or addiction.
Yeah, absolutely. You have choice. You know what I mean? And as I always say to myself, I just have to keep going. I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to acknowledge the pain, the trauma, the panic attacks, the severity, whatever. Yeah. You just have to keep going. You just have to keep trying. You know, but as you said, just keep it simple. What is the road you took then back into education? Where did that come about?
Well, initially, like, you know, after my
hiatus,
after my you know, stint in various institutions in London, I couldn't get a job anywhere. No one would touch me with a barge pole. Like, genuinely, no one would come near me. And then I was in the job centre in London, in a place called Wood Green, North London, near Tottenham, just after the riots, actually, when the riots happened and all that. And I'm going in, and I'm like, can I sign on? And the woman's there, and fuck, like, proper not interested. And I'd go in every week, and she'd give me, like, she'd always try and convince me to go back to Dublin. Here's a travel, like, she'd give me, like, a bus ticket for, you know, the bus air and bus or whatever. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm not going back. No way. And I'm glad I didn't, because I was coming out of the job centre, and there was all these cameras and these two absolute units, and I was like, who the fuck are they? So I was walking, and I kept my head down, and your man comes up and he goes, do you want to be on a reality TV programme? And I was like, no, you're grand. And he goes, you know, we'll teach you how to play rugby. And I was like, fucking rugby, go on out of that. Kept walking, right? We'll get you a job at the end of it. Oh, fuck, 180, what? Job? Defo? And he's like, yeah. I was like, I'm in, 100%. These two lads were Will Greenwood, who won the Rugby World Cup, with England, British and Irish Lion, and then Scott Quinnell, British and Irish Lion, and captain of the Welsh rugby team.
Yeah, Welsh, yeah.
And I hadn't a clue about rugby. Hadn't a Scooby-Doo.
That's the egg ball game.
Yeah, it's posh. Like, we're not exactly in the rugby hotbed of Dublin where we are.
My dad actually this was his dad's bedroom. He used to play rugby for CY and Carlisle up in Terranure.
No
way.
He
lived in the flats and he played rugby. He was also a wrestler as well.
No
I swear to God, I used to get some stick at school. You drove a Honda 50.
Like joined Haystacks or?
Yeah, no. Norman Greco wrestling.
Oh, right, proper stuff. Like.
Proper stuff, yeah. So he drove a Honda 50. He was into wrestling. Everyone used to call him Black Fist. Legend. So yeah, so what happened to you?
So they took us on for 12 weeks, trained us as rugby players. Like, you were there in the morning, you were going in, training. I hadn't a clue, you know, but picked it up after a while, and played the Metropolitan Police in the first game. We had 2 matches.
What position were you?
I was a prop. There was a fat lad at the front
pushing the scrum.
Yeah, most technical position on the pitch, I might add. Genuinely, not even joking. But yeah, no, I was prop and I played there and loved it. And then yeah, we won our final game, and then the jobs fair came around, and because of my mental health background and stuff, there was still a stigma. And this before mental health got cool. You know what I mean? Before it kind of
vogue.
Yeah, before it became like acceptable to talk about it. You know, it was like, Jesus, that fella's a lunatic. Yeah. Don't give him a job. And yeah, I didn't get a job offer. No one at the jobs fair. You had all these companies from all over, like the UK, and didn't get a job. And then eventually, due to kind of the references that the two lads gave me, I got a job working with Saracens, the rugby club, as a social inclusion coach, working with disenfranchised youth in London. So there was this big fat ginger white fella and all these Afro-Caribbean kids, like playing rugby in the flats, you know, and their flats are bigger than our flats. Like they're huge, like they're like proper concrete jungles, and it was brilliant. I loved every minute of it. The kids were wonderful. You know, it was just an amazing kind of, and it wasn't so much about the rugby. It was more kind of just giving the kids something to do, because there was nothing to do. And I loved kind of going in and, like, you know, using my, you know, like the social skills that I had to kind of engage with and to kind of keep them in education, training, or employment. And that was literally how I got into doing the rugby. And Saracens invested into me, and they sent me on all my rugby coaching courses. So I'm a qualified professional rugby coach. You know what I mean? I can, you know, unreal, to the point where I went to Brazil for a little bit and was coaching rugby over there. With just before the Olympic Games started. The Olympic Games finished in London, and the 12 Premiership rugby coaches went to Brazil, and I was one of them. Yeah.
Unreal.
Oh, ridiculous! Like, you couldn't, like, you know. In fact, I think one of the Irish newspapers got wind of it, and they wrote something like an Irishman that ended up on, what was it? Who climbed a London bridge and ended up in Brazil. Like, it was like a really funny headline.
Deadly.
Yeah, but it's.
And where did you go from there? You start working in mental health services.
Pretty much then, yeah. So I got a job working in the NHS in mental health peer support. So using my lived experience to kind of encourage patients to engage in services. And then from there, I saw an advert for a national advisory role with the Royal College of Psychiatrists at the National Collaborating Centre for Mental Health. And they were looking for experts with lived experience to kind of work on their mental health safety improvement programme. And I thought, sure, I'll apply for the crack. Like, fuck it. Like,
yeah.
You know what'll happen. And I applied for the job, and they says, you know, you're over, and I was working in the north, in the north of Ireland, in a psych unit there. And they said, look, we can do the interview via Zoom or Skype. And I thought, no way, I'm going over. Like, so I booked a ticket and flew over to London. And because I lived there before, I stayed with my mate. Got the tube out to the Royal College, did the interview. I remember telling me line manager, and they thought I was absolutely mental. I think they thought he's relapsing. Like, they thought I was being quite grandiose and making the whole thing up. And then a couple of days later, I got an email saying, "Congratulations, we'd like to offer you the position of national advisor for the National Collaborating Centre for Mental Health at the Royal College of Psychiatrists." And it's like, what? Like, you know, it was like if I'm being honest, up until I got into Trinity College, that was the biggest achievement of my life. You know, to be able
Incredible.
to, and I was visiting all different hospitals all over the country. You know, providing my expertise on de-escalation techniques. You know, restraint reduction, medication management. You know, quality improvement initiatives. You know, identifying small step changes that they can introduce to ensure that there's no gaps in service provision within the service that they provide. And it was like brilliant, yeah. Couldn't believe it.
Brilliant, that's incredible.
Yeah, I was going from like hospitals in London to hospitals in hospitals in Derby, hospitals in Lincoln, like all over, like, and then flying back every month for team meetings.
Wow, living your best life.
Don't worry, I haven't got COVID. I got the vaccine, so it's cool.
Yeah, me too.
It's deadly.
Take a drink.
Oh, bleed now. I shouldn't have that chili thing. Yeah. I think we're okay. So yeah, that was like, it was like real kind of surreal moment. Had to kind of pinch myself because I didn't kind of believe I got this opportunity.
Incredible. And from where you came, from the bridge, to your background, to doing such an amazing job.
I'm in meetings with like the National Clinical Director for Mental Health for the NHS in England. I'm sitting opposite chief executives of hospitals. You know, directors of nursing, associate directors of nursing, you know, clinical nurse manager. Like, I just couldn't believe it. You couldn't write the stuff. Like, I was just like, me there, like, say nothing, just watch everything. And then I started to learn, and they were amazing. The way they accepted me, the way they kind of developed me professionally as well. You know, they didn't want me to be something I wasn't, because I got the job based on Mick Finnegan from the flats.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got the job on my own, Marta.
Yeah.
Because I brought a lot to that job, you know, and still do. I still do a bit of work with them occasionally, and it's amazing, you know, an amazing opportunity to improve the safety for patients in hospitals across the UK.
Brilliant. And where did the Trinity piece come in? Was that just a desire that you wanted to do? How did that pop up? Why did you leave that job and go to?
I wanted to be more than just the expert by experience. Because there were professionals that were kind of, they looked at it in an almost tokenistic way.
Okay, get you.
You're only, like, they look at you and go, you've only got that job because you used to be mental, and now you're not mental.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd be like, well, actually, I've got this job because I'm better at this, and it's a good job I don't have a degree, because if I was your boss, I'd sack you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So
in my head, I'd be thinking like that.
You want your gun and badge?
Well, I don't want, pretty much. I just want, the way I worded it from my application for social work this year was that I wanted an academic background to underpin and reinforce my knowledge, my skills, and my practice. And that's why I decided to kind of go for that and pursue a third level qualification. You know, because, you know, I think sometimes when we're working with people that we want to support, sometimes it's not reflective of the people that we support. You know?
Okay.
And I think if we're providing a service, it needs to be reflective of the people that we serve. So people of colour, LGBTQI, you know, members of the travelling community, people from the inner city, people from different backgrounds across the country. Because I think that's the only, in my opinion, I think that's the only way we can have a comprehensive, integrated approach to making a real and lasting difference in the lives of so many people.
Gotcha. Had you got insecurities going to Trinity when you started?
Massively, yeah.
Yeah, because when I started education, I had serious hang-ups, I had serious insecurities. I was raging against, you know what I mean? I was
terrified. I thought, like, they're going to find out I used to come in here and rob bikes. Do you know what I mean?
Like, me too. Yeah.
I was like, God, I was like, fuck, they're going to find out. When I was a kid, not anymore. Thankfully. Just want to put that there, like. But yeah, no, it is. Like, it's funny. Like, I had to be, like, there was, you know, I think they're trying really hard to be inclusive now. And they have done for years, I think. I think a lot of the time you can only judge people on what they know. And the reality is they don't know a lot about the communities we come from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's going to be fear on both sides. I'm going to be afraid. They're going to be afraid. You know, there's going to be a bit of stigma on both sides. Good about that, you posh. Good about that, you're bleeding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're bleeding, yuppie. You know what I mean? It's like that, you know, but it's down to, I think you can only judge people on what they know. And I kind of just go with the flow and I accept everybody and I give everyone a chance until, you know, they mess up that chance, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and, you know, like there was a really funny moment in one of my lectures where there was a lecturer talking about, can I even give us an example of, what was it, something, a failed social program, and I actually put my hand up and was like, butter vouchers, and they were like, everyone's looking at me thinking I got 10 heads, because like I'm 38, most of the cohorts in their like early teen, like, you know, 17, 18 or early 20s, you know, and I was just like, Buddha vouchers. And I just said, oh, it was a it was a social program to alleviate food poverty. You know, you get these little vouchers, you go in and you could buy anything with them, and that's why it ended up not working out. And then the guy next to me was like, "Oh my God, Mick, you're like something out of a Roddy Doyle movie," and I was just like, I couldn't stop laughing, like, cause he thought like, oh, that's just so kind of out there that didn't really exist, and I was like, no, this definitely happened. And then I googled Buddha vouchers on my phone. I showed him the book and the little vouchers, you know, with the kind of the months and stuff. And he was like, "Oh my God, you what?" You know, and he couldn't believe it. So yeah, no, I think it's, you know, I think the college is inclusive, and it's becoming more inclusive, you know. And I'm very lucky to be there. You know?
No, times have changed, you know, and I'd encourage anyone from our area, the flats, Dublin 8, to, you know, if they get an opportunity to go back to college, don't let that be the barrier to stop. You know, things have changed. You know, it is more inclusive. When I went to college back maybe 12 years ago, I got serious issues around it, but I think it's a little bit more inclusive now, you know.
Massively. And like Trinity Access course, a lot of third level institutions now have access courses, and I couldn't, you know, didn't know how to write an academic essay, didn't know how to do maths and stats, I didn't know how to, you know, read or reference or anything like that. But that's what the access course is there for. It doesn't matter if you haven't got a junior cert or a leaving cert. What does matter is your willingness to learn, you know, and it's all about being consistent, you know, turning up on time, listening to your lecturers, you know, and really taking that opportunity with both hands, because I was just like, I was like a sponge. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I was.
Do you know what I mean? Like, literally, and I'd be walking around like, you know, Trinity College, like I was at a museum looking up at, look at that. Like, it was unreal, you know. And even now I still do it, you know.
It's amazing, beautiful buildings,
stunning place, great place. And like, to be fair, you know, even with me having a mental health issue, the college disability service has been unbelievable. You know, really supportive around me attending appointments, you know, my GP or my community mental health team. Very engaging. My tutor, Rachel Hoare, unbelievable. You know, just kind of being able to kind of have those opportunities to talk about my insecurities to people that work there. You know, so, you know, if you do get an opportunity to study there or anywhere, take it.
What's your thought around mental health at the moment in Ireland with this whole COVID situation? What's your thoughts on that? It's a difficult one. People are struggling. People are struggling,
and you know, the sad reality is there's no parity of esteem with how we look at mental health and physical health. Mental health and physical health is health.
Of course.
It's as simple as that, and it should be treated like that. You know, a small percentage of the health budget is spent on mental health, and we need to see, and I keep saying, we need to have parity of esteem. There needs to be 50-50 funding. There needs to be more beds. There needs to be more community-based services being provided so that people can get and access brief psychological therapies, because at the moment, you know, there is a massive need. You know, I get friends and people that I would have grown up with messaging me going, do you know if there's anywhere, you know, and I'm like, well, go and speak to your GP, get the referral going, access different services. But above all, if you're finding it frustrating, and if you're not, or if you're on a waiting list, the best thing you can do is talk about how you feel. Don't bottle up how you feel, because that's where the demons will get you. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That's where you end up in tricky situations.
Deeper and deeper, every year deeper, more drink, more drugs, more.
And it's okay. Come here, look, it's okay to feel the way you're feeling. Like, how you feel is normal. You know what I mean? If you feel like you want to punch the head off someone, that's normal. That's a human emotion. If you're angry, you're angry. If you're sad, you're sad. You know, if you're crying, you're crying. There's nothing wrong with that. Do you know what I mean? It's really important to understand. It. Absolutely, yeah, and to own it, and just to accept it, and to remember that things do get better. Like, I was on the streets, hadn't a pot to piss in. Do you know what I mean? And no matter what you're going through, like, life does get better, and it does get better.
Yeah.
I think you're a testament to that.
Yeah, look, I'm enamoured by your story. Like, it's just even what you said, years ago I was sleeping on the streets facing trendy. Now I'm at the graduating from it.
Yeah.
Like, that's incredible. Like, imagine if someone had said to you that day you were somebody pissing beside you. You know what I mean? Do you think you'll ever be in there?
No.
Yeah, robbing bikes.
Yeah, that's the only time you went in there when we were kids. Do you know what I mean? Like, we used to get chased in by the security and chased out by the security. And
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like, you never thought in a million years you'd end up going to a place like that.
I can't help but go back to what that teacher said to you and what she must have seen in you. You know, when she seen you should be doing honours history, and there you are in one of the most historical colleges in Ireland, studying.
It's weird. Yeah, it's surreal. Like, and I think, again, you always remember the kindness of others.
Oh yeah.
Like, and it doesn't matter what it is. It could be. I remember being in Cedar House, and I'd no money. You know, the CWO was still there. He was like, I'm not having it. You know, wouldn't give us any cash or anything. Or, you know, back then you could get like a little check and you'd go in, you'd cash it straight away and stuff. And this homeless fella who was in the bed next to me in Cedar House, Keith, he just turned around and goes, I heard you didn't do too well with the CWO. Look, that's all I can afford. That's me a fiver. But that fiver was like, that could have been 500 quid to me. You know what I mean? I was like, deadly. I can get because I never did drugs or drank. When I was on the streets as a kid, I was like, I can get myself a Mars bar and a can of Coke. Like, I was like, you know, I wasn't in any way involved or in that kind of, you know, involved in the madness. You know, and I think, like, again, that goes back to, like, people like Rose Rooney, who used to work with the homeless and ran the under 18 service in Christchurch. She used to let me stay there, you know, because there's nowhere else to go. And Howard Russell, you know, there's so many people in Dublin I could name off. Like, yeah, I will actually. Howard Russell, Rose Rooney, Francis Mon, Phil Thompson, Steve Malarkey, actually all the Malarkeys that worked in homeless services in the Salvation Army. Mark Carey then in Mercer's Quay, Peter McFerry, brother Kevin, and brother Luke's, who barred me for a week. But no, like, come here, like, the kindness of those people, the fact that they kind of do that day in and day out.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't be here today if they hadn't have helped me along that way. Do you know what I mean? Like, because they did go out of their way to, you know, help and support and advise and guidance and all that type of stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, even like Dolphins Barn Flats, you know, there's a fella there. He's like, we've been friends for well over 20 years. Noel Kenny, you know what I mean? Runs the church and all that up in RD Street there.
Right.
Does the food kitchen and the soup runs and stuff. And, you know, I remember spending Christmases with Noel and Sharon and their family.
Brilliant.
Nowhere to go. You know, and just again, the kindness of others.
Absolutely incredible. I'm delighted that you're here today. I'm absolutely honoured to have this chance to sit and speak to you, especially human being. What's the one thing you would like people to take away after listening to this interview?
Don't be afraid to be yourself.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Mick, I'm going to say what that man says to you on the bridge. I love you, brother. I'm absolutely blown away by your strength of character. You're a special human being. I hope you can look in the mirror and you can see what we can see. I'm just rooting for you. Fucking, you're deadly, man. You're fucking
Thanks,
deadly.
Bro. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm just blown away. Andy, this is an absolute belter. Well done to you, Andy. I'm delighted to have shared this interview with you.
Andy.
Guys, wow. Look, if there's anything in that interview that affects you and you need any support, get in contact with us. We'll put you in towards, you know, Shannon's Hope Line, PA the House, there's mental Jigsaw. There's lots of mental health service out there. Your friends, your family. If we can even be a point of contact here for the chats, just to say that it's okay to feel how you feel, because a lot of stuff can be triggered. Maybe it wasn't you, or maybe a family member, but still you have to mind your little self. So look, I just want to end this by saying thanks to our sponsors, Andy from Liberty Media Hub, Noel Roynley from Rooney Media Graphics, the girls from Shannon's Hope Line, Lisa and Sandra, the guys from Liberty Soup Run, and you guys for always supporting us. Thanks so much. Please share this with family and friends. This story is incredibly inspirational. This can change people's lives. You know, if you're in the flats, if you're struggling with mental health, if you're living in Ballsbridge, Foxrock, Howth, Dolphins Barn, you too can turn your life around, you know, and it's all can be done through love and kindness and minding your little self. Mick, you're an absolute legend, pal. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Take care, boy.
Yup the block. Yup the block.